Welcome back to Code Hive, the place where we make it work, make it right, and make it fast. So in today's video, I actually want to talk about data types, right? So before looking at the different data types, I just quickly want to discuss the importance of data types in SQL Server. Okay, so a data type specifies the type of data that a column can store and guides the database engine in handling and processing that data. So basically what this is saying is that if you want to store, for example, in a column, your column name is first name, for example, and you want to store people's first names, right? You need to decide on one person's first name. That way, the database can process the data based on the specific data type that you have chosen. Okay, so it will make sense as we keep going. So the first one is the integer data type. So the integer, also called int, this format is ideal for storing whole numbers with no decimal places. It is commonly used for primary keys or counts. So basically, if you want to store a primary key number, for example, you want to store, I don't know, someone's phone number. If you want to store anything that is a whole number that contains no decimal places, then you could use integer, right? So let us look at the usage of the integer data type. So using the int, right? So the syntax for inserting the values, right? So it's your insert into event ID values 1. So when we were looking at the other videos, if you still have to watch those videos where I talk about creating a table, inserting values into the table. If you still haven't watched that video, please do that. But if you have watched that video, then you would have noticed that sometimes when we insert values into a table, we use your quotation marks, right? Your quotes. So in terms of int, you don't use it. You just put whatever number it is. So in this example, the values that you're inserting into the events table is 1. The number 1. You could insert 2, 3, 4, 5, but you don't put it in quotation marks. Okay, so primary keys or identifiers. So basically, a table's primary key is frequently an int column that uniquely identifies each record in the table. So for example, a user ID, a product ID column could be a type int. Okay, so also if you're using for counts or quantities, so columns with no decimal places that represent counts, quantities, or any numeric value. Okay, so a quantity column in an inventory table, for example, could use the int data type. Okay, so the next one in line is the VARCHAR data type. So the varchar is an abbreviation of variable character. So this is used to store character strings. So it's used to store strings. So names, surnames, address, descriptions, anything that is a string, right? A string meaning letters mixed with numbers, letters. If it contains a number, but it still has a letter, then it's still considered a varchar. For example, you want a column that will store employee ID, but your employee ID, you don't want it to be an int. You want it to first have the name emp and then the number. So emp 101, for example, that is considered a varchar. Whole numbers, but then it still contains a string. So the whole thing is considered as a varchar. Okay, types, varchar only stores the characters that are entered. Okay, so using the varchar, right? So insert into events, but now in name and the values, conference. So you see now that your conference is in quotation marks to indicate that it's a string, right? It contains letters. That's why we put in quotation marks. Okay, char could be used in names, addresses, as well as descriptions. So in terms of names, columns that store the names of people, places, or things. Addresses are columns that store information about addresses such as street names, cities, states, and postal codes. That also you use a varchar. Descriptions are comments, columns that contain variable length descriptions or comments. Okay, so we have looked at VARCHAR in my other video where I talk about how to insert data into a table and also how to create a table. We have looked at an example where we actually do talk about VARCHAR and you see the usage of it and how to actually use it. So if you still haven't watched that video or anything to look at, then please do so. So the next one that we are going to look at is the date data type. Okay, so it is used specifically to store date values that do not include any time information. So be careful, there's date and there's also date time, which we will discuss later on. So in this case, it is just used to store date values. So it's used to represent dates in the year, month, date format, where the 4 Y's represent the year, the 2 M's represent the month, and the 2 D's stand for the day of the month. Okay, so using the date data type. Okay, so the syntax for inserting is insert into events table, and then your column, which is event date, values, 2023, 11, 15. So 2023, which is the year, 11, which is the month, 15, which is the date. Okay, so you can see that this is stored in quotation marks. So because the integer we discussed earlier on, we said that you do not have to put in quotation marks. In this case, a date as well as strings is referred to as a literal value, right? Meaning that it refers to a specific constant value that is directly written into a SQL statement. So a date as well as strings, which is your varchar, right? Those are literal values. Okay, so that's why you have to store it in quotation marks. Okay, so when do you use a date? When you're storing date of birth, so keeping track of people's birthdays in a table. The date of a transaction is recorded in a sales or financial database, dates of events, dates of employee hire. So basically, when you're using the date data type, it is basically used when you are storing date information. That's when you use a date data type. Okay, so I will upload the second video where I talk about more data types, but for now I hope this does make sense. Please, if you have anything to say, if you have feedback, or if you want anything to ask, then please just leave a comment in the comment sections. Please don't forget to like this video, to subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching.